Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone, please welcome the Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Thank you, Netroots Nation. Most Americans know that Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States. Most don't know what distinguishes our capital from every other capital in the world and every other part of the United States. Polls show that most Americans believe D.C. residents have the same rights they have in the Congress of the United States. But the residents of your nation's capital have no voting representation in the House or the Senate. The Washington, D.C. Admissions Act, our pending D.C. statehood bill, confers that right on the citizens of the nation's capital by making the District of Columbia the 51st state of the United States of America. The founders went to war for voting rights, not for democracy, not for freedom. Their war slogan was no taxation without representation. Not freedom now, not give me liberty or give me death. It was no taxation without representation, yet the people I represent pay the highest taxes per capita in the United States of America. But they have no right to be represented in the national legislation with a vote. There is no evidence that the founders meant taxation without representation to apply to everyone in the United States except the residents of the capital they themselves created. To the contrary, they modeled their capital on the other capitals they knew, the European capitals. George Washington said that the District of Columbia would be what Paris was to France. Well, the citizens of Paris have always had equal voting rights with other French citizens. The reason the district is controlled by the Congress was the refusal of Pennsylvania to protect Congress itself when the capital was located in Philadelphia. 218 years later, the nation's capital has ample protection with federal and D.C.'s own special forces. But our generation is still confronted with a leftover issue of D.C. residents needlessly left without equal rights in the Senate and the House. The current system denies residents more than 2 senators and a voting House member. It deprives residents of their right to equal citizenship. Only in America do you give up the right to voting representation by moving to the capital, or in my case, being born there. Only in America can you gain the basic citizen right to be represented in the national legislation by moving from the capital. Most fundamental in a democracy is the right to a voice, to be represented when decisions are made about your life. For example, the universal background check just passed the House of Representatives, requiring a background check before you purchase a gun. I could not vote on that bill to protect the nation's visitors to our capital or the people who live there, or on dozens of others that the House has voted on. Today, here at Netroots Nation, I am predicting that H.R. 51, to make the district the 51st state, will pass the House of Representatives this year. The residents of our nation's capital more than meet all the requirements for equal citizenship. That in turn requires voting representation in Congress, more time in the Union than most states, more federal taxes per capita paid than the residents of any state. Time is up. Time for H.R. 51. Time for statehood for the District of Columbia.